There is no housing shortage here in Hawaii. There is a housing crisis, maybe an emergency, but there's not a shortage. What we do.
The problem is because the rates are so high, nobody's actually selling their home.
It's $40,000 a year, which back in my day was sustainable to be able to live.
Nope.
Does anybody else miss the days where you could rent like a house or an apartment for like $1,000? Like, I remember first moving out on my own, and I think my apartment was like maybe like $945 or something like that. Like, really wasn't that bad. And now we just moved to the south, got our new house, paying rent, and we're paying $2,100. And I know that might not be a lot to some of you guys, but for rent, that is crazy.
There is no housing shortage here in Hawaii. There is a housing crisis, maybe an emergency, but there's not a shortage. What we do have is hundreds and maybe thousands of vacant condos in Kaka'ako, Ala Moana ward area that are owned by foreigners. They're not rented, they're just vacant. What other cities have done is they raise the property taxes on those. We should have 20 times higher taxes on units owned by foreigners that are sitting vacant. It forces them to either rent it or pay the tax. Then we take that tax and give it to local people who've been born here maybe or lived here at least 20 years or something like that. And that money goes to local people in the form of a real estate voucher. They can use it for rent or purchase. The governor knows that this is a possibility. I've spoken to the past mayor about it. This is a political problem. You could solve it really quickly. You could force those foreign owners of luxury condos to rent to local people or sell.
The US is completely unhinged when it comes to our prices. So I'm in the middle of the country right now. I'm in the middle of Missouri, where visiting my parents where they live, and I just went to a local chain coffee shop and got a coffee. This latte, it's a medium oat milk latte. It cost me almost $8. Like, I'm not in a big city having a fancy coffee. This is a drive-through coffee in the middle of Missouri just cost me $8. I swear, if millennials can't even afford their little treats anymore.
When the mortgage rates go up as much as they have, the real estate market would dump. The prices would go down. The problem is because the rates are so high, nobody is actually selling their home. The amount of turnover in the housing market has shrunk dramatically.
So overall, nationwide, we have a lack of inventory for sale. Yes, there are pockets where there's a lot of inventory, but nationwide, there's not that much. If you eliminate pending sales, we have about 600,000 active listings on the market. That's not enough properties on the market to drive down home prices. We would need over 1.5, almost 2 million more homes on the market to get prices to settle down. So unless we can bring more inventory into the market without bringing buyers, don't expect to see prices to go down.
$40,000 a year, which back in my day was sustainable to be able to live.
Thank you for speaking on this. It's very refreshing to see people from the older generation speaking out on this, because a lot of times it feels like the older people are just like, oh, millennials and Gen Z are so lazy they don't want to work for anything. Like, no. We're a very motivated, a very ambitious generation of people, but it's just like this system is extremely fucked. There's no other way to put it. It's extremely fucked. We're not being put in a position where we can have a prosperous future or a wealthy future because of the position we're in now. You know what I mean? School, hella expensive. Learning a real trade, a real skill, hella expensive. We know about the student debt crisis. And now they're making a simple roof over our heads, housing, wildly expensive. I can't tell you how many friends that graduated college and have good salaries, 60, 70, 80, some of them 100, 150K and more, that are still looking around like, why the fuck is it so hard to own a home? Why are these bullshit apartments so expensive? Why would I pay these people all this money for this bullshit instead of just living with my parents and saving up money? You know what I'm saying? Like, I have friends that are making over 80K a year, great full-time jobs, full benefits, that would rather live with their parents than pay these bullshit complexes to live in bullshit areas with bullshit amenities and bullshit things within the actual home. It's like, It's just so frustrating that we did everything they told us to do. We went to school, we got educated, we worked hard, we did everything they told us to do. And then when we're actually out in the world, they want to charge us $1,800 for a 1-bedroom apartment that really ain't shit. And then when they talk about, oh, the future is going to be great for you, just got to work hard and stay down. How? A lot of people don't have savings. They're spending it all on basic, like housing and groceries. And what scares me the most is that more and more people are becoming aware of how fucked it is. And all we do, we record a video, we post it on TikTok, we post it on Instagram, we post it on social media, and then we say, well, I've done my part, and we close out the app, and then we go on about our day. That doesn't fix anything. It amazes me that the government can talk about banning TikTok and all these new things about immigration, but then when it comes to providing affordable housing or affordable healthcare for your upcoming generation, the future leaders of this country, y'all don't want to talk about that. Y'all don't want to say anything about that. Or even, it amazes me that the government will have a whole meeting about banning TikTok when there's been over 100 mass shootings this year alone. Like, the government doesn't give a about us, man. But they're making decisions about our lives, bro. Do you know how expensive bullshit apartments are nowadays? And nobody's doing anything about it. We're just talking about it on TikTok and then going about our lives. Like, this shit has to change, or we're all in the future, man. Like, you can't, why do I need to make 3 times?
Canada's housing crisis is about to get even worse. Check this out. Immigration Minister Mark Miller has just announced that we could see our immigration targets increased despite being in the middle of a massive housing crunch. These new targets are being announced on November 1st, and Mark has stated that we are not in any position to lower them by any stretch of the imagination. This is coming at a time when our housing market is so broken that we are seeing basement apartments in Brampton renting out for $3,000 a month. People are even willing to live in boiler rooms, with somebody putting a mattress in their boiler room, putting it up for rent, and actually receiving a lot of interest. What's even more concerning is we are way behind on our new home building targets, as 2/3 of home builders say they are building fewer units. In fact, about 22% of Canadian home builders have said they are canceling projects entirely. Canada already has the lowest housing supply per capita in the G7, and things just keep going downhill. Estimates from last year claim we were short about 650,000 homes in Ontario, and as builders cancel projects and our population keeps booming, this number is just going to keep getting worse. I really have to question if the government is setting people up to be homeless. What do you guys think?
The U.S. housing market has now reached a new record all-time high. So I want to show you this. So take a look for yourself. This is the Black Knight's Home Price Index. As I explained before, the housing market crash was fake news. The U.S. housing market has now reached a valuation of $47 trillion. So this is higher than the previous peak of $46 trillion back in 2022. All right, now I want to share with you the current stats. The previous high for home prices was in June of 2022. Right now, home prices are 0.4% higher than that time. Year over year, home prices are up 3.2%. And this is the biggest increase in the past 8 months. So home prices are actually accelerating upwards. So now, not only are they going up, but they're going up faster. The number of homes for sale has fallen. It has fallen 15% year over year. So keep that in mind, because this is going to be very important for the rest of this discussion. Before we go any further, I have to say this. Otherwise, you already know it's going to be a circus in the comments down below, and we don't want that. So this is what I want to say. I know and I understand that in certain cities, home prices are down. But going forward for the rest of this video, I'm referring to the national average. So national averages. So just think about it logically. If you want to say in the comments down below that home prices are down 20% in your area, that's fine, that's great. But I just want you to know, if home prices are down 20% in your area, then somewhere else, they're probably up 21%. And if you say, okay, Brian, but in my area, they're down 40%. Home prices are down 40%. Listen. It's the same thing. If they're down 40% in your area, then somewhere else, they're up 42%. You can't one-up the situation. This is how math and statistics work. Now let's move on. So here's why we did not get a housing market crash. At the end of the day, home prices are dictated by supply and demand. So if you want a housing market crash, then you need more selling pressure than there is buying pressure. One way to achieve a housing market crash is to have more distressed sellers. But sellers right now, they're far from distressed. It's the complete opposite. We have a lack of sellers. Basically, if you want a housing market crash, then we need more stress out there. If you're already stressed, well, we have to take it to the next level because that's what's necessary. There has to be more stress so that Americans will sell their homes and then add to the supply side of the equation. That's how you get a housing market crash. And that's not coming from foreclosures. That's not coming from adjustable rate mortgages. And that's not coming from ninja loans because compared to the last housing market crash, those are at much lesser levels. And I would say don't rely on a severe recession because the Federal Reserve, their money printers are on standby. That's probably not shocking. I want you to understand this. This is so important. The biggest reason why people don't want to sell their homes right now is because of their mortgage interest rates. People feel like they're locked in, and I'll explain that. I want you to see this. So this chart shows the interest rates on current mortgages. Right now, the 30-year fixed mortgage interest rate is around 7%. However, 92% of homeowners with mortgages have an interest rate of 6% or less. An interest rate of 5% or less, 82%. An interest rate of 4% or less, 62%. An interest rate of 3% or less, 23%. So listen, those are the stats. 62% of mortgage holders have an interest rate of 4% or lower. So that is probably a lot of people watching this video right now. So why would someone with a mortgage interest rate of 4% want to sell their home right now, lose money on commission, go through the stress of moving and borrow money at 7% to look for a home in a market where there's slim pickings? Remember that there's a lack of inventory. So you wouldn't put yourself through that torture unless you really had to, unless it was necessary. And they're coining the situation as the lock-in effect. So people are feeling locked in to their low interest rates and they don't want to sell their home right now. And there are less sellers, and this is translating to less supply. So this is not a good ingredient for a housing market crash. And if you think, okay, Brian, but if interest rates fall, let's just say to 4%, then there's going to be a flood of sellers because the lock-in effect will be no more. No, that's not how it works. If mortgage interest rates fall to 4%, then think about the pent-up demand. There's going to be so much more buying pressure. So as interest rates fall, more buyers will step in. And then there's going to be more demand to offset the increase in supply. So there's going to be an equilibrium. Now, I want to point this out to you. Just look at the
Nope.